Welcome back. Now, we have not experienced load shedding in a while. A variety of factors are responsible for this, but the National Energy Regulator recently approved rules for Eskom to implement stage 16 load shedding if need be. Chris Hilland, who's MD and energy analyst of EE Publishers, joins us with his analysis on what's currently playing itself out in our energy landscape. Chris, always a pleasure. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
All right, Chris, we are seeing load shedding. It's being met with lots of suspicion, and who can blame us? I'm keen for you to just help us understand exactly what could be happening here.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of conspiracy theories about the coming election, and this is just a big election ploy. But the reality is there's no real evidence for this at all. It's just idle talk by people who really are not well versed in the world of electricity. Conspiracies of this kind are very difficult to keep under the hat. So I don't put any credence to these kind of conspiracies. If you look at the data, there's good reasons why we are where we are. There's good reasons why load shedding has been reducing. We feel it, we know it, but if you look at the data, it's easy to start to understand it.
Let's talk about then what the data does tell us here, Chris. I do believe that this is actually an issue of demand that is leading to the reduced load shedding.
Yeah, so look, if you look, for example, at the unplanned outages, this is the breakdowns of Eskom's plant. We note that it's pretty stable, and it is noticeably improved. In other words, lower unplanned breakdowns than the same period last year. So for the first 13 weeks of this year, it is significantly and noticeably reduced from what it was the same period last year. But at the same time, the level of planned maintenance has increased noticeably this year compared to last year. And of course, this is a good thing. When unplanned breakdowns are reduced, it gives Eskom more headroom and space to do the necessary planned maintenance, and Eskom is doing that. So the combination of the two, reduced unplanned outages and increased planned outage, means that the availability of the Eskom fleet is roughly the same as what it was last year. So you might ask then, why are we experiencing lower load shedding? And the answer really, again, if you look at the data, is that demand for electricity from Eskom, if you look at the amount of electricity that Eskom is generating, has been reducing every year. And it continues this year to reduce for many reasons, including the general economy, the fact that Eskom's prices are going up, double the inflation rate, the fact that people are experiencing problems with security of supply. They're installing alternative energy sources, alternative generating sources like rooftop solar PV battery storage, both at the residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural level, mining. It's all happening. And at the same time, also driven by the price increases, people are using electricity much more carefully than they did in the past. People are putting in place energy efficiency measures, doing everything possible to reduce their consumption of electricity because it's so expensive. And this is happening, again, not just at an individual level, but at a commercial, industrial, mining, agricultural level. People are using less electricity, less Eskom electricity, and they're moving to alternative sources. This is relieving the burden on Eskom's generators, and therefore we feel this in the form of reduced load shedding intensity and frequency.
I must tell you, Chris, that's something that maybe concerns me, and I'm keen to get your thoughts on it, is that reduced demand will eventually lead to reduced revenues for Eskom, and that might be a bit of a challenge.
Yes, it is a point that has to be noted, but just remember that up to now, Eskom has been losing revenue as a result of load shedding. So it's actually already losing that revenue. And if we can reduce load shedding, it's not causing any additional revenue loss. Of course, once load shedding is over with, if we get it behind us completely, then reduced demand will result in loss of revenue for Eskom. But right now, Eskom has already lost this revenue. It's been losing a lot of revenue. For example, in 2023, Eskom, the loss of electricity caused by load shedding, the loss of revenue to Eskom was about 10% as a result of load shedding. So it's already lost that business. And anything we can do now to reduce load shedding is not causing additional load shedding, not causing additional losses.
Then I must also ask you, Chris, right now, as things stand, as we see this reduced load shedding, all of it's still heavily reliant on coal-fired power stations. I'm keen just to understand then how renewables might play, into this as we try to fix the issue of load shedding. But of course, we're trying to move somewhere in terms of our greener energy.
Well, absolutely right. At this point in time, South Africa is still heavily dependent on coal-fired electricity. But coal-fired electricity is proving to be unreliable, intermittent. It's also uses a lot of water. It's not very healthy. It's causing a lot of problems with pollution and premature deaths as a result of air pollution. And so there's a lot of pressure, to move away from coal. But this is not going to happen overnight. It's going to be happening over decades. As Eskom's coal-fired plant reach end of life, progressively they will start shutting down generating units, coal-fired generating units, and decommissioning these old plants. So this is not a quick thing. It's going to happen over a couple of decades, but there is definitely a trend globally to reduce dependence on coal-fired power plant for all these reasons that I mentioned, and also because of climate change. So we do need to, and we've got wonderful resources of wind and solar, but it's not a one or the other. It's a transition over decades.
And then I must also ask you, Chris, I think to also get clarity here, over the weekend we would have read that NERSA had released guidelines, was speaking about stage 16 load shedding. It also sent alarm bells ringing through households in South Africa. These are just guidelines. It's really us being prudent, if I'm not mistaken. Help us understand what this all means.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's necessary to put in place the necessary protocols and plans, even for emergency conditions that are unlikely to eventualize. Even for a national blackout, Eskom has got detailed plans in place, firstly on how to prevent a national blackout. And load shedding is one of the levers that can pull and the tools at its disposal to prevent a national blackout. But if in the very rare event that a national blackout does occur, Eskom has very detailed plans on how to recover from that national blackout, how to restart the grid. Now, that's not to say that it's likely. In fact, it's very unlikely. But you have to be prepared even for emergencies and very unlikely situations. So the fact that we've now got plans in place for up to stage 16 load shedding, well, it was a result of the fact that we were pushing stage 6 load shedding. Some people even think we had gone to stage 7 or stage 8, although Eskom vehemently deny this. But we kind of felt it. We felt stage 7 or stage 8 load shedding. If we look at the number of hours of load shedding we experience per day. So really, one has to be prudent. One has to put in plans. Eskom has put in plans, but I don't think we should suddenly expect that that we're heading towards stage 16.
Brilliant. So, Chris, thank you so much for this clarity, much needed this afternoon. That was Chris Yalanti, is MD and Energy Analyst of EE Publishers.